Hello, how are you? I hope you're good.
We don't go the same places that we used to.
Welcome to another video in the You Recommend series. And the series is, in my hopes, a useful resource where you can find book recommendations from fellow readers and also recommend just the best of the best books that they personally really enjoyed. That way I can obviously cover a way bigger ground than just my own recommendations. This is the third video of the sort. The first one was for thrillers, the second one was for adult fantasy. If you missed those and if you would like to check them out, I will link them in the description bar. But today, somewhat, I guess, holiday special is the wintry books. So of course I asked you guys over on Instagram, if you don't follow me on Instagram, and you would like to submit some recommendations in the future, it's just at book_roast. I share loads of stuff there. So as always, I went on Instagram and I asked for the best of the best winter book. If you could recommend fellow readers one wintry book, which one you would recommend. I picked 20 for those, and I do think that no matter if you're looking for a contemporary, a fantasy, a thriller, or horror, I think we have a little bit of everything. I am not going to linger on these books for too long because there are 20 of them and I don't want this to be too long, but hopefully I will give you enough details to decide which one you kind of want to inspect further. Vast majority of those I have not read. If I have, I will state it. These are in absolutely random order. I will tell you the name, the Goodreads rating, and a little brief description what they are about. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of these that I'm going to mention, if you like them. If you have another one to recommend, of course, leave that recommendation down below. And also, if you were looking for a recommendation and you think something piqued your interest from the list, let me know, because I think people who recommended this would also really love to hear about it too. Frostheart was recommended possibly the most. Frostheart is actually a middle grade book and the Goodreads rating is 4.09, so pretty hefty. And it's following our main character called Ash. When a brave rescue attempt reveals he has amazing magical powers, he's whisked aboard the Frostheart, a sleigh packed full of daring explorers who could use his help. But can they help him find his family? Plus there's, I think, a grumpy yeti, which sounds really whimsy. It's very highly recommended by so many. If you don't follow my friend Jade, you really should. She's under the channel name JD Ray Reads, and she is the queen of polar fantasy reads. Next up is actually my current read, which is The Bear and the Nightingale. This actually has the same rating, 409. It's a YA fantasy inspired by some Russian folklore. It is written by a non-Russian, but they did study Russian folklore and also lived abroad in Russia, I believe, for a while. And the story is about Vasya. Her mother kind of gets pregnant with her unexpectedly and decides to keep the child because she's hopeful that the powers of her grandmother, who was said to be a witch, will be transferred into this child. She does kind of already know that she will die during childbirth, and she does. So we follow her story as she's growing up, and her father finds another woman for the family. And as stepmothers do, she's not very kind to her. Whilst Vasya is seeing all of these old gods and old creatures around the house, so does the stepmother, but the stepmother thinks they're demons. So it's about the old gods versus the new gods and a fight between those. And also there is this Frost King something that has an eye on Vasya, and he's making the moves to meet with her. Then we have Even the Darkest Stars, which is actually a story about mountain climbing, and it definitely is filled with snow. The rating is 3.9, so a tiny bit lower. It is a YA fantasy. It does, however, have tiny adorable dragons. And I know there's a couple of you that will be enough for. In the story, there are two sisters. One is way better at the explorer path, and they're both still learning, but their village actually gets visited by a very famous explorer who unexpectedly asks our main character to follow them and join their expedition. Her sister then, kind of hurt, joins the rival explorer, and so our main character has to decide where her loyalties lie. So this story will offer you, again, tiny dragons, avalanches, ice chasms, and even ghosts. It sounds like it has a little bit of everything. Next up, we have another YA fantasy, which is A Shiver of Snow and Sky. In this book, we have kind of like northern lights predicting the future. So they're kind of color-coded. Green means that all is well and the goddess is happy. Then blue means a snowstorm on the way. Red is rare and red is a warning. When we jump into the story, the last time the red color painted the sky, it was 17 years ago when she was born. That coincided with a massive plague that actually took a lot of lives. And as we jump into the story, of course, the sky goes red, and our main character takes it upon herself to figure out why and how to stop the imminent disaster. The rating for this one is 3.65. A historical fiction set in Alaska. This one is called The Snow Child, and it was also one of the highest recommended books for this theme. The rating is 3.97. And as I said, it is set in Alaska in 1920. So a couple moves into Alaska and they both crumble under pressure, but just for different reasons. One night there is a massive storm and they just decide to take a kind of evening off and build a child out of snow. Next morning, the snow child is gone. However, there's a very real girl running between the trees. Whilst they struggle to understand this child, where it came from, how it's surviving outside, and who it belongs to, they soon learn to love her as their own and take care of her. And then it says, but in this beautiful, violent place, things are rarely as they appear, and what they eventually learn about Faina will transform all of them. So it seems like it's a little bit sinister, and as I tell, historical fiction and magical realism. Interesting. Then we have Spinning Silver, another YA fantasy, which I thought actually was an adult one, but I'm not quite sure, with a very high rating of 4.22. This is a fairy-like story about a girl who lives with a father who is burdened by a lot of debt. She gets a bit desperate and she goes and tries to take care of it herself, and she very quickly becomes known for her ability to turn silver to gold. After a very ill-advised boast, the existence of this ability reaches a king, and once he hears about her and her abilities, her faith and the whole kingdom's faith is changed forever. Then it says, torn between deadly choices, Miriam and her two unlikely allies embark on a desperate quest that will take them to the limits of sacrifice, power, and love. I've very rarely heard that someone did not like this book. It seems to be a pretty loved story. From what I've heard, it's also a very, very atmospheric read, and clearly very wintry. Next we have this beauty. I'm so excited to be reading this at some point, definitely soon. And it's called A Winter's Promise. This is actually a translated work from French. It is a YA fantasy once again, apparently. The rating is again super high, 4.17. This is all about these floating cities, which I'm obsessed with already. And each city is its own, I think, kingdom, if I'm not mistaken. They're called arcs. We follow a character that has to leave hers and go and marry someone else, and she actually has the ability to speak with objects. There are mirrors that act like portals. She has to hide her identity, and I heard that there's a lot of political intrigue. So if you are into political intrigue-based books, I think this would be a good shout, and it just looks so promising. I don't know, something about this calls to me. Watch me not like it, but moving a tiny bit away from YA fantasy, we have a YA contemporary by 3 authors apparently. John Green, Maureen Johnson, and Lauren Mirasol? Sorry. And it's called Let It Snow. The rating is 3.76, and it actually includes 3 romance, love, Christmas stories. There's one about a hike from a stranded train. There's another one about a trip to a Waffle House through 4 feet of snow, and another one about early shift in Starbucks, and all very holiday-ish because it's, I think, specifically written for like a holiday feels. I have a feeling this would be a super fast read if you are looking for something very cutesy, very probably insta-lovey. I don't know, but it just sounds like it could be. This could be a good grab. Then of course we have a classic, and this one is A Christmas Carol with an average rating of 4.06. And so this is a classic story about Scrooge, who is a very bitter, miserable man who is visited by a ghost of his ex-partner in business, and then 3 more ghosts of Christmas, to be shown the errors of his way. Another YA fantasy is Winterwood. This one has a 3.81 rating. Seems to be about women who live by these woods and are kind of whispered to be witches. However, a boy goes missing and reappears in the woods when really he should have not survived the storms and the winter that is in the woods. So obviously everyone is a little bit suspicious at the start, but our main character grows to really care for this boy. But she cares about him deeply. However, things in the woods seem to have a very weird energy since his arrival. She cannot ignore it any longer, and so she has to go and inspect what sort of trickery he's up to and how he survived and what is he even doing here. So this is a YA fantasy with a little bit of sprinkle of mystery. So if you're into something like that and something a bit shorter, this could be a good shot. The next one is a paranormal YA retelling of the Christmas Carol. And that is The Afterlife of Holly Chase with a rating of 3.99. So Carol, like the Scrooge, was visited by the 3 ghosts. However, she did not change her ways, and now she is dead. She's also now stuck working for the secret company Project Scrooge as the latest ghost of Christmas past. And I'm sure there's some sort of lessons to be learned there too. I think this was very, very popular, I think last year or the year before, I'm not quite sure. Another middle grade for you guys, it is called The Polar Bear Explorers Club with a very high rating of 4.18. It says, join Stella, Starfleet, Pearl, and her 3 fellow explorers as they trek across the snowy Icelands and come face to face with frost fairies, snow queens, outlaw hideouts, unicorns, pygmy dinosaurs, and carnivorous cabbages. Moving on to something entirely different from the Explorers Club, it's The Terror. This one has a 4.04 average rating. It's actually a horror book. This is set in the Arctic Circle. It's following a scientific expedition that is projected to be extremely successful and mind-blowing and all those things, so everyone is kind of confident there. However, after a while, they become a little bit stranded there and they start fighting over food and resources. But the thing that scares them the most is that it is constantly dark and they have a horrible feeling that someone or something is there in the dark. And that monstrous terror is constantly clawing to get in. So it sounds pretty spooky. The next one is, of course, The Golden Compass. It is at 3.99. I actually never read this one, so I'm gonna read a little bit about that here. Lyra is rushed to the cold far north, where witch clans and armored bears rule. North, where the gobblers take the children they steal, including her friend Roger. North, where her fearsome uncle Azriel is trying to build a bridge to a parallel world. Can one girl make a difference in such great and terrible endeavors? Either Lyra or Lyra, I'm not sure, sorry. A savage, a schemer, a liar, and as fierce and true a champion as Roger or Azriel could want. But what Lyra doesn't know is that to help one of them will be to betray the other. An already very popular series, and probably even more so now that the TV adaptation started rolling out. So, a good time as any to jump on that. Hello, this is me like 3 hours after the first half because I tried to edit and I realized that when my battery died, the video format changed automatically, I think, so the frame rates didn't match up. So we're refilming them. So if the angle is different, if something's different, that is why. No matter, let's go. We have 5 books left. The first one is The Revenant with the average rating of 3.94. This is actually marked as historical fiction, but we're following a Hugh Glass, who is an explorer, exploring the wilderness with a team of fellow explorers. However, they encounter an extremely vicious bear, and after he gets attacked and molded by it, the team decides that he is so badly injured that he's very unlikely to recover or live, and so they leave him behind. And that action is actually something that probably motivated Hugh to actually stay alive. And then this is a story about him surviving in the wild. And so it actually says, their betrayal is the only thing that kept Hugh alive. Overcome by desire and drive to seek revenge, he must survive. The Revenant is a remarkable tale of obsession and the lengths that one man will go for retribution. And there's obviously, of course, a movie for this, an adaptation with Leonardo DiCaprio. If you're looking for a different classic, there's also one called The Night Before Christmas. The average rating for this one is 3.86. This one is a dark classic from Russia. It is a fairy tale and it is written in 1831, and it follows a blacksmith who is fighting a devil who has stolen the moon and also is like kind of wreaking havoc over this village, only just to woo the prettiest girl in the said village. Another YA fantasy, Blood Heir, currently ranked at 3.87 stars, and yet another one set with like a Russian vibe. But this one is set in a world where some people have special abilities, and what Anna, our main character, who is a daughter of the Emperor, is one of those people. However, her ability is a little bit frowned upon, so it is not actually common knowledge amongst public, and that is that she can control blood. A little bit like bloodbending from Avatar is what I imagine. Unfortunately, her father, the Emperor, gets assassinated or killed, and a lot of people that were close to him are now suspecting that it was Anna's fault. She has to find someone to help her in a quest of figuring out what happened to her father and also proving that it wasn't due to her. Another romance contemporary, this one is called One Day in December. The average rating is 3.94. Our main character, Laurie, does not believe in love at first sight. However, she does see someone that she feels an instant connection with, and she only gets a glimpse while she's driving in a bus, and then kind of casually for the rest of the year keeps trying to check out the bus stops in case she will spot the person again, only to be reunited with the person in her friend's party. And it says, what follows for Laurie, Sarah, and Jack is 10 years of friendship, heartbreak, missed opportunities, roads not taken, and destinies reconsidered. Next one is all about small communities. Beartown, with a whopping rating of 4.25, super high rated. Beartown seems to be a story of a small town, a small community that really rely upon one another. It's about a small town that is not really well known and it's kind of dying off, and however they do have this ice rink and a hockey team that could possibly bring some traction to the town. The hockey team now, what was it? All the hopes and dreams of this place now rest on the shoulders of a handful of teenage boys, exploring the hopes and spirit of small communities. So if you're looking for something that involves sport and is overall, I think, possibly very, very wholesome, Beartown could be the way to go. I could be wrong though. And then the last one is one that I'm actually really excited to read because it has one of the tropes or one of the plot devices that I am a sucker for, and that is Groundhog Day. This one is called In the Holidays. Current rating is 3.86, which is like a middle road, I guess. This is another romance contemporary, and it's about Maylin Jones, who is not a very happy person currently in the state that she is. And one day when she's driving away from this cabin that she absolutely loves spending Christmas at, however, this is the last Christmas she will be able to do so, she casually throws into the universe saying like, please show me what would make me happy. And then I think it is alluded that we are in a car accident with her and she wakes up on a plane on the way to the cabin, and then kind of in like a Russian doll TV show manner, she lives through the day and then something happens and she wakes up again in a plane, again and again and again. And obviously this is a romance, so some type of romance obviously also happens, but it just sounds like it could be wholesome, it could be funny, it could be lighthearted, and the Groundhog Day, I'm just a sucker. I'm just a sucker for that. I'm excited to give it a go, and that actually is the concluding book for the list. Please let us know if you have found something that piqued your interest, or if you have also read something and you too enjoyed it, or if you didn't, you know, just let us know. Thank you to everyone who has submitted their suggestions. Thank you so much for recommending fellow readers the reads. Hope you enjoy this one. If you have a particular genre, subgenre, theme that you would like to see next, please let me know and I can make it happen. I hope you're not too stressed with the holidays upcoming, because it can be just as stressful and frustrating as it can possibly be magical. I hope you're keeping safe. I hope you're keeping reasonable. I hope you found a recommendation that you think is promising. So thank you so much for watching. Stay awesome, stay kind, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!